He's still attacking MAGA as working very hard to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk. We want to capitalize. We're in mourning. We're not capitalizing on the death of Charlie. We're in mourning. You leftist losers are out there trying to blame us for his death, trying to disparage his legacy, and we're trying to correct you, and we're trying to correct the record. And for once, we're fighting back. That's what you're talking about. You're just not used to it. We get to Wednesday.
What happens when late night comedy suddenly meets a serious reality check? Imagine this. Megyn Kelly stepped right into Jimmy Kimmel's world, not with a friendly attitude, but with the reaction of someone who just found out their Netflix password was stolen. News started spreading that Kimmel might be stepping away, and Megyn did not stay quiet about it. Instead, she reacted strongly and openly. This was not light joking or simple teasing. It felt more like a
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is.
Quick pause. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Jimmy Kimmel has built his career as late night's go-to entertainer. He flashes a confident smile, delivers familiar jokes that sometimes feel a bit repetitive, and then looks back at the camera like he just nailed the moment.
You know, a lot of people watched our show last night. I got so many texts from so many people. It made me realize how many of my friends are never watching the show at any other time. Tomorrow, I'll hear from no one. I did hear from one very special friend. Moments after we taped our show last night, the Mad Red Hatter wrote, "I can't believe ABC Fake News gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back." You can't believe they gave me my job back. I can't believe we gave you your job back.
But nothing could have prepared him for Megyn Kelly coming in so aggressively. This wasn't just a small argument about ratings. It felt like she was taking direct shots at Jimmy Kimmel and questioning his relevance. The whole situation felt less like late night TV and more like a dramatic movie scene where Megyn's sharp words stood out in every moment.
ABC are now in meltdown because, according to The Hollywood Reporter, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, the phone lines were ringing off the hooks. They were upset. They too are feeling the vibe shift that we felt since Trump's election. And they've had it with this nonstop pinko commie leftist programming up and down their airwaves. From The View in the morning straight through to Kimmel in the evening. And don't even get me started on David Muir. Then you had Brendan Carr go on Benny Johnson's podcast and say, you know, enough is...
Because here's the reality. Jimmy Kimmel's career now feels like something that's lost its spark. It used to be exciting, but now it's struggling to stay relevant. Megyn Kelly didn't just criticize him. She completely shut it down and questioned why people still care about it.
This whole Jimmy Kimmel situation, I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. If people on the right are like, yeah, go get him. Oh my God, you're crazy. You're crazy for supporting this. It makes his show bigger, much more support. This is my suspicion. They suspended for a short amount of time and then they bring it back. And then there's a lot of lawyers. Somehow or another it gets worked out that he has a show. He comes back to a standing ovation. Donald Trump tweets mean shit about him. And then the world moves on.
And the most striking part, Megyn Kelly handled it with calm, controlled confidence. The kind of presence that makes people instantly feel on edge. Jimmy Kimmel tried to play it off with an awkward laugh, adjusting himself like he was unsure how to react. But Megyn wasn't convinced. She quickly took control of the moment and shut it down with firm...
So it's the right wing who's in denial about this young man's affiliations. By the way, he was not a kid. He was 22 years old. We went through that. Then it was made perfectly clear over the past 2 days that this kid, to use Jimmy's word, has been completely indoctrinated into left-wing ideology. His parents said that. His parents said he had moved farther left politically. He had gotten very into the messaging of the left wing around gay rights and trans ideology. And then we see what was written on the bullet casings. And now the message is shifting from the left to, well, we still might not know his motivation, but
the crowd didn't even know whether to laugh or be shocked. It felt like a total mismatch. One side clearly stronger than the other, and the timing made it even more intense. Rumors were already spreading that Jimmy Kimmel's late-night career might be struggling. As soon as talk of his possible exit began, Megyn Kelly jumped in quickly. Jimmy tried to defend himself, but Megyn cut through his points with sharp and confident remarks. By then, it felt like the situation was already decided.
last night mostly, that there were multiple reasons why Jimmy Kimmel was pulled off the air. But chief among them was, not only was he not planning on apologizing when he was going to go back out on his show Wednesday evening, he was planning on attacking MAGA, attacking. My words are being purposefully twisted.
The irony is that Jimmy Kimmel built his career by roasting others, politicians, celebrities, anyone in the spotlight. But when the pressure turned on him, his confidence quickly faded, the smirk and bravado disappeared, and instead he looked caught off guard, like someone suddenly facing a situation they weren't prepared for.
When you look at the Jimmy Kimmel suspension, do you think it's another example of kind of state use of, is it state censorship?
Well, I think this is a very clear example of that. It is a direct government action to try to intimidate employers, organizations, corporations, much of which we've already seen, to remove an opponent, even though it's a comic. Of course, this was a particularly sensitive time because of the terrible crime that was committed, the murder of Mr. Kirk. But you know, you defend free speech in terrible times.
Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly stayed completely unfazed. She turned every one of Jimmy Kimmel's responses into jokes for her own side. Social media blew up instantly. Half the people were praising Megyn for saying what they felt, that Kimmel's jokes just aren't landing anymore. The other half tried to defend him, but it didn't really convince anyone.
2 weeks ago, Stephen Colbert announced that he was leaving his show. Howard Stern announced that him and Sirius XM Radio are parting ways. Do you think that hate Trump that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business because it's not popular with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time. And I would say pretty much from the beginning, Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they.
And while Jimmy Kimmel quietly slipped off stage, Megyn Kelly stepped out like someone who just cleared their biggest debt without even trying. Cool, composed, completely untouchable. Even Kimmel's own crowd didn't cheer the same. They walked away whispering. And now everyone's asking the same thing. When does Megyn get her own late night show? Because this didn't feel like a small moment. It felt like a cultural reset. Kimmel didn't just take an L. He became the outtake. And Megyn, she didn't just take the spotlight, she became the hot.
Such gaslighting. We went through how many days after we saw what was written on the bullets of them saying, no, don't believe what's on the bullet casings. He was a right winger. He came from a MAGA family and he was MAGA. But went from days of that. By the way, here's just one example. Jimmy Kimmel, this is him on Monday refusing to acknowledge that he was a left winger. Notwithstanding, but the fact that we already had this information from the Utah governor that he was indoctrinated into the left-wing ideology. We saw what he had written on the bullets. Just one example.
Jimmy Kimmel probably thought he could bounce back the next night, crack a few jokes, spin it into a bit, and move on. But how do you get laughs after taking a hit so brutal that even the laugh track sounds awkward? At that point, it's not comedy anymore. It's a tragedy under studio lights. The ratings didn't rise to watch Jimmy recover. They spiked because everyone was waiting to see if Megyn Kelly would come back for round 2.
Last night, SOT 10.
I used to think I go too hard on Donald Trump to the point where there are still a lot of people who think I should be pulled off the air for making fun of Donald Trump. So I want to explain, I talk about Trump more than anything because he's a bully. I don't like bullies. I played the clarinet in high school, okay? So
this is so ridiculous. You know, I feel like Emily, you are genuinely funny. You've made me laugh out loud many times on your show, After Party with Emily Jashinsky. I'm mildly amusing. Eliana, I think you're funny too. You're very clever. However, I would never think that because I'm occasionally funny, I could host a late night show. I would never think I could go out there and do Jimmy Kimmel. I just would.
And the ripple effect? Huge. If Megyn Kelly could take apart Jimmy Kimmel like that, what chance did anyone else really have? Stephen Colbert's smirk, Fallon's laughs, none of it would have held up. Even Gordon Ramsay was lucky to be out of the line of fire. Because if Megyn had turned on him, he might have suddenly remembered an emergency in the kitchen. But Jimmy had nowhere to run, no cut to commercials, no producer stepping in to save the moment. Just Megyn, calmly and precisely chipping away at his confidence piece by piece, until all that was left was a long, uncomfortable silence.
Funny either. Like, I could totally do this. I've been too hard on myself. All three of us could go out there and host a non-funny show where we just say political thoughts. We actually do that for a living already. How is this comedy? How are people giving him the excuse that he's a comedian? He's not even trying to be funny. That's just some weird, long, rambling, like, Twitter post about the nipples and the trapper keeper. It's not even arguably clever. But the point is, he's back to himself, Emily. He's learned.
In the end, Jimmy Kimmel didn't walk off like a comedian. He walked off like a warning. Proof that recycled jokes and a bit of smug charm won't hold up when someone sharper steps into the spotlight. Megyn Kelly didn't just roast him. She turned the whole moment into a career wake-up call. One night, he looked like the king of late night. Next thing, he was the punchline. And Megyn, she was the one still standing, holding the mic.